Imagine you're sitting in the NICU next to your daughter's crib, and a specialist just happens to be walking around looking at all of the babies. This specialist just returned back from Europe, having visited a 22q deletion syndrome conference. This specialist stops at your baby's crib, takes a closer look, and suggests that you get a 22q deletion syndrome test done for her, and that she has a lot of the similar traits of children with 22q. What would you say? What would you do? For Tyler, in 1994, this is what happened to her and her daughter. And it is just remarkable that this just happened to happen to her, and that specialist was there in her NICU at that exact moment. And this was just the beginning of Tyler and Tanner's 22q journey. Hello and welcome to the 22q podcast. My name is Becky White, and today I have someone who is just amazing. Miss Tyler, I met at the 22q Moms Retreat, and honest to God, she was definitely MVP because you always made and class clown. You always made everyone laugh. You were just comedic relief, but also that mom we all looked up to as younger moms looked up to you because you've been through the trenches. You now have an adult with 22q. And I'm just so excited that you're here because I know you're so loved and your daughter seems like a love as well. And I just can't wait to hear more about her. So please, Tyler, introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, and a little bit about your family.
Okay. I'm Tiler Turmon. I'm currently in Maryland. I've been here 11 years. We'll get to that later, what brought me here. But I'm originally from California, born and raised. Central Valley, farming. Basically, my number one job has been Tanner. She's my priority and always has been. It's kind of interesting because when I had my child, there's a few other moms that I know that's older now because of the retreat we had. But there wasn't an avenue like this, or there wasn't Google, or there wasn't, just go search something. I can remember our journey, how it started it was a normal pregnancy. She was full term. I had her quickly, no problems, and her temperature was below normal, and so they were trying to get her temperature up. The next day, I remember the pediatrician coming in though and saying, she's got something going on with her heart. Her heart doesn't sound well. We want to send her over to the children's hospital in our area, which was Valley Children's in the San Joaquin Valley. And so off they swooped her as I'm still in the hospital. I got out, went over and checked on her. They had a cardiologist meet with us. And he said to us, this is really strange. He says, after looking into it, she has a Hemitruncus. And I said, what's a Hemitruncus? And he said, well, it's where the aorta, normally it's the right side, is coming off and connecting to the lung. He says, but hers is different. Hers is the left side, which is very rare.
Okay.
Didn't have a reason for it. So immediately we went down into the basement of the hospital to look at film and to read medical books that they had. And he said, this was on a Tuesday, I guess Monday. It was a Monday. And he said, we're going to schedule her for surgery for Friday. And, of course, being a new mom, I did have a son that was 3, perfect health. It just kind of slaps you. And I remember thinking, okay, this is good. We'll fix it. We'll fix her. She'll be fine. As we're waiting, the few days and talking to and she's in the NICU and we're sitting by her all the time and everything's going on. She was having a hard time feeding. She was having a hard time, keeping her color, keeping her temperature, all that. And it was due to the Hemitruncus. So I guess it was maybe on Tuesday, we had a a specialist that came, just happened to be at the hospital and was meeting with the geneticist and was going through the NICU unit, looking at all the kids and just talking to the other professional. And she had just come from Europe, and she had just come from a conference on DiGeorge syndrome. So she came in, she was looking at all the babies, and she looked at Tanner, our daughter, and she said, "What's the story on this little one?" And the gal said, "Well, she has a Hemitruncus. She's going to have open heart surgery on Friday. They're going to fix it." And she said, looked at her and she said, "Do me a favor. I need you to genetically test this child." And the geneticist says, "Oh, okay, what are we testing?" She said, "Well, she has very long fingers. She has very long toes. Her ears are very small and a little offset." She says, "I just came from a conference on DiGeorge, and she fits the profile, and they can have
Wow.
heart issues." So meanwhile, they tested her. They came out to us and they said, "Hey, we want to do some genetic testing." We said, "Absolutely." They did some testing. They came back on, I believe it was Wednesday. They were really quick about it. And they said, "She has DiGeorge syndrome." And of course, now I'm going from, what is DiGeorge syndrome? I thought she had a Hemitruncus. We're going to fix it. She's going to be good. They said, "Well, it's an abnormality of the 22q link, and we want you both to be tested." And we said, "Okay, we'll be tested." And they said, "But we're glad that we caught this, because most children that have DiGeorge syndrome, their immune system's not well." And she said, "And your daughters, they also had tested T cells and things like that, said her immune system's not well at all. And if she were to have open heart surgery without radiated blood, it would be fatal." And we said, "Okay, okay." So when they went forward to do the surgery, they made sure they had the radiated blood. So they went from there. She came out of it doing well. They did see that she had a hole in the bottom of the heart, and they think that's probably what kept her alive.
Wow.
And they repaired that. After 28 days of her being in there, we got to take her home. Now, minded, I'm not breastfeeding her, but I'm pumping and giving her the milk because Dr. Wara, which was the immunologist that found this from UC San Francisco, she said it's very important that you breastfeed her as long as you can for her immune system.
Hmm.
I said, "Okay." So I thought, well, yeah, I'm in it for the long haul. So I pumped and made sure that she was fed that. Got to bring her home. I was able to breastfeed her. But she struggled when she breastfed. And I want to say, we went back up to UC San Francisco about every 3 weeks or so. We were going up to San Francisco to check in with them, to have them follow her and so forth.
May
Oh,
I ask a question?
yeah,
First of all, what are the chances? What are
right.
the chances that a specialist that just went to a 22q DiGeorge syndrome conference walked into your NICU, saw
Mhm.
your baby, and suggested a genetic test? Because what year was this? Kid?
This was in 94.
In 94. And what are the chances? Does that
I
like,
know. It was
does
a
that
God
blow your
thing.
mind?
It was an absolute God thing. It really was. It was an absolute God smack thing. Like, yeah, it just all aligned, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember when I brought her home and I was feeding her some, she struggled and struggled. Well, about 3 months old, and we'd been going back and forth to San Francisco, like I said, but about 3 months old, she basically, when I was feeding her, she turned blue and just went out on me.
Oh my
Called
gosh.
the ambulance. They came and took her, rushed her off. Well, she had had a small seizure, and food was pooling. It wasn't going. She wasn't feeding well. At that time, they decided they were going to do an aniston and put a G tube in. And they also addressed her seizures. So they put
Mhm.
her on some medication for that. These are all things, you don't know. You don't know that she's having all these things. And you're just thinking, okay, I'm doing the best I can do. And so from then on, from 3 months out, we were feeding her through the tube. I was pumping. She was doing better. We were doing occupational therapy. We were doing PT therapy. We were doing everything under the sun for this child, back and forth to UC San Francisco, because that's where the immunologist was. Her surgery, everything went well. Her Nissen went well. Feeding was doing great. And then we got hit with RSV. And she had a respiratory virus hit her. She was just under 6 months old.
Oh my
Put her in
gosh.
the hospital. I remember her pediatrician saying to me, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. She has so many factors against her. And then this RSV, with her not having a good immune system, it's just not looking good, Tyler. And I just want to prepare you for that. And I remember thinking, I'll be darned if this is going to take her out. And so I remember I would sit and I would whisper in her ear, I'd talk to her. And you asked a question on our prep of one word to describe her. And if nothing else, it was determined, because she was a fighter from day one. And I don't know if anybody else, I'm sure other moms think the same thing. And it's true. These kids are so resilient and they are such fighters, and they don't know any different. They know nothing else but to fight. She pulled through after 2 weeks in the hospital. She pulled through.
Wow.
I said, okay, well, we dodged that bullet. So took her back to the heart doctor, and he said, we have a problem. And I said, what's the problem? He said, well, it looks like where she had her surgery has closed off and has scarred. And I said, oh God, now what? Well, we're going to send you down to UCLA to a specialist there. I said, okay. Went down to UCLA. She was 6 months. It was on Thanksgiving. And went down there, and they said, we're going to do surgery. We're going to take some of the pericardium tissue from around the heart, and we're going to open it. We're going to patch it. Okay. Now, meanwhile, Tanner, she's at the age where she knows that stuff's going on, but they don't communicate real well anyway. But we sent her in for the surgery. Everything went well, came out of it. It was the worst thing you have to see. It's one thing when your child's a baby and firstborn, but then as they get older and they have these things, it's horrible, as many of the parents know. And I can remember walking into the room right after, she came out and everything, and she was alert. She looked at me and gave me the dirtiest look with her eyes and turned her head, and my heart broke. I just started crying. My mom was there, and I'm like, she's mad at me. It was just the worst. She was so angry that I had put her through this and not understanding why.
Yeah.
And everything, though, that all went well. We got home from that, continued to do all the different, we had ear appointments. She had tubes. She still has tubes to this day. She just had her 24th set. It's just never ending. Everything was going really, really good, though. The first year after getting through these surgeries and all this and going, like I said, to UC San Francisco, it became a monthly thing. Eventually it turned to a 3-month thing, and it was a 3-hour drive for us, but it didn't matter. I did what I needed to do.
Yep.
And it got to the point where I can remember every time I would go to San Francisco, they would say, we're going to test her for this. Why are you going to test her for that? Well, this is common. This can go along with this, or this can go, we're going to test her thyroid. We're going to test her this. It was constant something. So I got to the point where I had to have somebody else with me, because her dad was always working. He came sometimes, but we had a business, we had businesses, and there was a lot going on. I would take someone with me, whether it be my mom, whether it would be a cousin, my dad, or a friend. It didn't matter. I had to bring someone with me because I would walk into the office and they would throw this on me saying, "This is looking great, blah, 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 but we're going to test for this now." And at that point, my mind would go to the worst place. And I heard nothing else that was being said,
Mhm.
nothing else.
Mhm.
We on our way home or the next day, I would say, okay, so what did I miss in all of that? And they would say, well, this is this. And they would tell me,
Mhm.
because either they've taken notes or they remember, but they knew what they were there for.
Right.
So that was my support system, was really
Yeah.
family and friends.
Yep.
And there was no support system of anybody else with a child with it. Dr. Wara hadn't come across another child with it at that time. It was just very rare.
Right.
It just wasn't something you heard about.
Mhm.
And as you know, a lot of these kids, they don't get diagnosed until they're older. Probably a ton of people walking around that has it, and we didn't even know it, you know.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
God bless them for putting up with everything and not knowing what the issues were.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
hard. That's
It's
really
so
hard.
hard. That is a lot in her
Yes.
first couple of months of life. That is a
Yes.
lot for you and your family. And I'm just wondering, what were you feeling when you got that diagnosis?
Um, you know, it's interesting because I think that my personality is, okay, we're gonna figure this out. It's okay. We'll get through this. I don't know how, but we're gonna do it.
Mhm.
And I just never let it really put me in a place where she wouldn't be okay. I think that I I'm stubborn. I'm very stubborn. I am. I'm very stubborn. And it's funny because I see it in her too, and I'm like, okay, well, she comes by it honestly, being
Yeah.
28 now, but she's really like 16,
Mhm. Mhm.
got that some sassiness and that back talking and the cut of the eyes and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's a fun time right now for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
As my mom says, well, I always said you would be paid back, but I didn't think it was going to happen, but it's happening.
It's
I said,
happening,
yeah, it may
right?
be late, but it's happening.
Yeah.
I just never thought that it would be any other way. I can remember them saying, well, the worst possible case scenario would be maybe when she's 27 that she would need a lung transplant because she
Mhm.
only has one good lung because the other one was damaged. And I said, okay, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Lungs have not changed. I
Oh,
mean,
good.
the one lung is doing wonderfully. She's not restricted. She does everything that anybody can do. She
Good.
exercises, she can ski, she can run, she can whatever. She's not on any heart medication because she had no valves or anything put in.
Mhm.
Um, she's doing really well.
Her life look like now as a 28-year-old with 22Q?
It's evolving and she loves animals. Animals love her. It's just something about her spirit. It doesn't matter what kind of animal they take to her.
Mhm.
So she has been dog washing for 3 years now.
Nice.
And wonderful. It's a large shop. She washes, there's 4 bathers, and she washes approximately 15 dogs a day.
Wow.
So it's a no joke job. I
That
mean,
isn't.
it's hard on her. She has the vascular veins in the back of her legs and her knees and things of an 80-year-old. So she has had surgery and she'll probably have to have some more done, but
Mhm.
that's just part of the 22q. The vascular is not great. This job, it's constantly pushing wear your compression leggings and wear your compression socks. And so your legs don't hurt because you're on your feet all day. But
Mhm.
she is doing wonderful being a dog washer. Her dad would like her to be more than that. Oh, well, can't you groom? Well, can't you this? Well, hence why he's not in the picture.
Mhm.
Except for,
Mhm.
he does see her. He's in California and he
Mhm.
sees her a couple times a year, maybe.
Mhm.
Because that's how it works out.
Mhm.
Um, but they're fine. She drives. She did not start driving though until she was 25 and a half.
How
Took
was
her,
that process?
well, it took her 13 times to pass the written. They gave it to her every way they could. They read it to her. They let her take it from paper. They did computer, time computer, no time computer. And finally, the 13th time she passed, and it was so cute because the gentleman that we always went to, and he would, he came out to her and he looked at her and he says, well, I've got some bad news. And her heart dropped and she says, don't tell me I failed again. And he said, well, I think you're going to be driving. And she just started bawling. She was so excited, but they knew her that well.
Yeah.
So started driving. She passed the first time on the drive. She's a good driver. When she first started driving, she had a Volkswagen convertible that I had bought in 2011, brand new. So we rigged it and had all these things done to it so it would help her as much as possible. I could actually watch her go to work and come home. And
nice.
it was a good thing for her first driving. Recently, she just purchased her own vehicle, got financed and all.
Wow.
And so we're teaching her how to buy a vehicle and how to save your money and how to make 2 payments a month if you can, and this type of thing. And she ended up getting a Subaru Crosstrek, which has all the bells and whistles. So
yeah,
driving wise, she doesn't drive far. She drives to work, which is kind of a straight shot down a country road. Her dentist and her psychologist is straight down the country road the other way. She does those things for herself. I used to go with her everywhere, and now I'm like, no, you need to go to the dentist. You need to advocate for yourself. Her teeth, they pulled her top teeth and her bottom baby teeth, implant, like not implants, but false teeth put in, permanent ones, until her teeth came in because her teeth just crumbled. They just go. Yeah, she says, but they're not going to give me laughing gas when I go. They won't do it. I said, they will if you tell them. And so she's learned that she has to tell them, no, I need it,
She sounds amazing.
Yeah,
And how does it make you feel when she tackles the world on her own? And did you ever imagine this for her?
I don't think I did. I think that I imagined that it would be a much easier navigation for her, but it's not. It's really tough because she is so young and she is so naive. Sometimes I think that parents yearn for normalness, so they think that the child can go and be a part of college life, say, or they can go and they can drive and be friends with people that they're not in a circle with and not know anything about. And they almost treat the children as if they are a normal child, even though they have these social lacking skills, and I think that's where you get in trouble. Sometimes as parents, we have to step back and say, it's not about what we want for them. It's about what they can handle and what they understand. Because our kiddos, with the social end of it, they can be taken advantage of so quickly. She would love to go to college, although she does not have a GED. She has a completion of certificate. I don't care that she doesn't have a GED. I really don't care, because as long as she has life skills, that's all that matters. One thing I can say about education, and she had IEPs, but in the very beginning, I started her at Montessori, because when I took her to a psychologist doctor that did testing for ADD and ADHD and all these other different things, they said she learns from doing, hands-on. So I remember in my area, we had Montessori, but it was only through kindergarten. I remember she went to 2 years of preschool there because she started late. And then she did kindergarten there. And then it was like, okay, now where do we go? We were lucky enough to have a school that was a small district that I grew up in, and it was a country school. And our son was in private education, but we brought him there too. And she did really well with IEP. They did well with speech, all of that. So on top of school, IEP and speech, she also had speech outside, because, she didn't start talking until, oh man, I don't even know. She might have been close to 4, I would say. Yeah. So we did that for her primary grades and it went well. She did really, really well.
Good.
Now, was she up to grade level when she was at 4th or 5th grade? No, but it was okay. She was doing the best she could do.
Mhm.
I remember her walking in. This is a funny story. I remember her walking in one day after she started her dog washing, and she comes in and I was not feeling well. So I think I had the flu or something. And I'm in my bed and I'm laying there and she comes home from work and she says, I said, honey, how was day work? She says, mom. She grabs in her pockets. She has a smock on, grabs in the pockets and she's all wet. Everything's wet. Pulls out all of this wet money, throws it on the bed. It's a bunch of $1 bills. And, she says, what am I supposed to do with that? And I said, where'd you get that from, hon? And she said, those are my tips. And I said, well, that's wonderful. That's good. Let's count it. Oh, she said, like, this is just overwhelming.
Too much.
So we sat down and we counted each one, and then I'd have her count back to me, and she had like $35 of tips, I said, honey, that can pay for gas in your car, or if you want to go through Starbucks or lunch, that's extra money on top of your paycheck. Well, why? And I said, because some things that you do, job wise, people want to give you extra special tip, they call it, to say you're doing a good job. Oh, so I'm doing good? I said, yes, you're doing good.
Right. Yeah.
So, she was really excited about that. It is what it is.
Do you enjoy seeing the world through her eyes and
Oh my
something
God.
like that?
I wish everybody could see the world through these kids' eyes, as old as she is even, because you see the the pureness of the world is all you see, so naive, so sweet, so everything that your child is when they're little, but when they get older, they still have that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just the sweetest thing in the world.
Your daughter, what are some of the biggest challenges she faces as an adult with 22q right now?
Her anxiety. Her anxiety is through the roof.
Mm.
She struggles all the time. She is on, yes, it's certainly pretty positive.
That's okay.
She takes that, and the anxiety is constant with her. I know that while I was gone, I told we have to tell her sometimes, stop calling and texting unless the house is on fire, unless you've cut your hand off, and stop. We need our time, by ourselves, meaning, my Ron and I. And she said, so at the end of the trip, we were on this last time, we said, you've got to stop. You got to give us a couple days. So then she turned to my son, because my son was also coming. He was coming over every evening, cooking, and just hanging out with her and watching TV, a movie or whatever.
How's their relationship?
Wonderful. She thinks the world of him. He's great with her. He's only been back here living for a little over a year now, because he was in California all this time. But his wife is from this area, so they moved back here, and she's just loving having them both, actually. And but he did say to us this last time, he said, oh my God, Mom, she didn't call and text you anymore. She was blowing my phone up, and she was calling she called me at midnight. Jazz, my chest hurts. I'm having anxiety. And he's like, did you take your Calm and Glow, which is a machine that you breathe into, Calm and Go, it's called. And she's like, no. He's like, well, do it, breathe through it,
Right.
And he talks her down. But that's what I deal with all the time. It's okay. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you put your diffuser on? We do it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have to.
Yeah.
She has a dog that is her world. I say her dog's special like her because I swear to you, they are two peas in a pod.
That's
But
amazing.
she's just thriving. She would love to have a boyfriend. She would love to get married. And I
Mhm.
said to her, not everybody's meant to get married, honey. Well,
Mhm.
everybody gets married. I said, no, not everybody does not get married. Not everybody gets married. And, she used to want kids, but I said, I don't think you're going to need kids. I don't think you're going to need any kids. I said,
Mhm.
you can't take care of yourself. You know me,
Yeah.
Becky. I'm honest. I
Yeah.
tell her how it is. I'm like, you can't even take care of yourself. What are you going to do if you have a child that has issues? First of all,
Mhm.
if you have a normal child with no 22q or anything, it's a lot. But can you imagine if they had stuff? I said, it's just not even realistic. So she's kind of gotten that out of her head,
Mhm.
but she just wants to be loved. And she
Mhm.
is loved, but she wants to be normal loved.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does.
So I think that gradually I am getting her to a point where it's okay, you know, to not have a significant other in your life, especially when you have such great family structure. And she wants to be an adult. Like sometimes she'll say, well, I'll just find a place to live. She gets mad. But then when she has to stay home and we've gone somewhere, she doesn't like adulting. And she'll tell you that I don't like being an adult. I said,
Mhm.
no, it's not fun. It's
No.
not fun for me. It's not fun for your brother. It's not fun. But this is the way life is.
Mhm.
All in all, she's just doing phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like I said, she doesn't have a GED, but I don't care that she doesn't have a GED. All I
No.
care about is she knows life skills. She knows enough to where someone won't take advantage of her. And that's a process right now. That's still
Mm.
in the process and working. But, she said to me, Mom, when do you think I'll actually be 28 years old? Because I always tell her, that's just an age. You're not really that old. So I said, I don't know. Maybe when you're 35, you'll be 28. And she goes,
Right.
oh, okay. Well, that's
Mhm.
okay because I look young. And I said, that's right, you do. And
She
that's a
sure
good
does.
thing.
Yeah. It's it's amazing. Like I look up to you so much as a young mom and I just think to myself, how did you do this without having ever met any other
Yeah.
families or
It,
anyone else navigating this? And what sort of tips and tricks have you learned along the way? What has worked? And I know you had mentioned to me before at the mom's retreat, you guys have a giant calendar for her
Mhm,
that kind of
mhm.
like breaks things down. Like, tell me, like, what really has worked for you over the years navigating 22q?
You know, now she has to have the calendar thing going on. Sometimes she wants to put her heels in and not go by it, but it's everything from brushing your teeth at night before you go to bed, using your nasal spray, doing the dishes, feeding the dogs, walking the dogs. I mean, she has chores. She has to do stuff. And she has to vacuum, she has to wash dog beds. I mean, she does not get off lightly from anything. She does her own laundry. She has done her own laundry since I'd say the 7th grade. We have to chart it. If we don't chart it, I've learned with these kids, everything is routine. You have to do everything routine every day, all the time. And if you don't, they get so out of whack and out of balance, it's not even funny.
Hmm.
And they can't figure out what is wrong with them. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Well,
So routine, and
yes,
then also just having that visual
that
of,
visual that
oh,
they
I
can
didn't brush
pick
my
up.
teeth yet.
Nope, right. It's good. And then she comes to you and she says, oh, Mom, I got all this done today. I was like, good. But we've had to implement it at work too with their boss. We've had to say, hey, this, this is how she learns. This is how it is. And it's been a process for her boss. But you know what? She's been wonderful and she does everything she can possibly do to make everything easier for Tanner.
Hmm.
That's huge when they work somewhere and the boss understands that
Yeah.
they have these needs. This is how we have to kind of navigate around how they work, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Do
I
you feel like
think,
you've had to educate?
oh God, yes.
Just everyone that she comes
everyone,
into contact with?
everyone. And then I think a lot of times there's people that family even that we come in contact, and if they spend any amount of time with her other than with us around, they're like, oh my god, I didn't realize how much, and it's true. And that's her brother is like that too, since he's been around her so much. He just never realized how much it is, because
Mhm.
yeah, we may not have the health stuff right now. We've gotten through a lot of the health stuff, but the mental, social, she doesn't, I'll be honest, she doesn't have friends. She really doesn't. She has a couple Canadian girlfriends that have 22q that they Zoom and they text each other. Um, but as far as socially having friends, she's not on the same wavelength.
Mm.
There's nothing in common. She doesn't feel like she fits.
Yeah. How is that for you?
It's sad. I would love for her to have friends, and I've tried different things. I got her real involved in youth group, for it was college youth group. Of course, she's the oldest, but it, then she would go and all she'd want to do is find a boyfriend. Like, oh, there's boys. Oh, and it was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not why you're there. You're there to
Yeah.
learn social skills and
Mhm.
connect." And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's no fun because I would love for her to have friends and
Mhm.
be able to go and go catch some lunch, or
Yeah.
go to Starbucks. And
Mhm.
it's not the greatest, but
It is such a you have some parents that are like, talk about, "Oh, I can't wait till they're out of the house. I can't wait till they're out of the house." And
oh
it's
god,
like,
no,
it's like a catch-22, like you just said.
yeah, yeah. You want
You
them to,
love. Mhm.
but in actuality, yeah, I think I've said this at the retreat. I'll never be an empty nester. I've decided that'll never happen to me. And I guess that's the journey I'm supposed to be on. I guess that's what God had planned for me. And that's okay
Mhm.
because He knows best. I don't know. I mean, I just I fly by the seat of my pants half the time.
That's what I love about you. What has been the biggest struggle for you navigating your daughter's 22q?
Personally or with her.
Personally?
Personally, a failed marriage, which I don't think people talk enough about when it comes to kids with special needs of any
Mm.
kind.
Mhm.
Um, if both parents are not there, or one decides to check out because they can't handle it, and that's kind of what happens. So personally, that was really tough. But that being said, when I said I live in Maryland now, when she got out of junior high, I thought, what am I going to do with her for high school? And she was at a private junior high and she was just lost. So she did great up until 6th grade. Then she got lost in junior high. It just wasn't a good fit. And I was just spinning my wheels. I was researching. I was looking into schools all over. I was trying to figure out what in the world am I going to do? This is not working. I would never homeschool because I don't like school. Like all these moms that have written books, I'm like, so good for them. I could
Yeah.
never. I just couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
But
No.
so I remember when she was in the 8th grade, I was sitting down with a cup of coffee in the morning after I dropped her off, and I was watching Good Morning America, and I came across they had an interview with Quinn Bradley. He had VCSF, and his parents were part of the Washington Post, and he had written a book, and it was so interesting listening to him talk because he had what Tanner had. It was 22q, it was DiGeorge, it was VCSF, it was all that. And when you looked at him, you could see it. And I just sat there like, oh my God, there's this adult, that's early 20s. And I'm thinking, oh my God, who is this guy? So I went out and I bought his book. It's called A Different Life: Growing Up, Learning Disabilities and Other Adventures. And it's by I say Bradley. Anyway, found out that he went to the lab school in Washington, D.C. And this lab school was specified for kids with learning disabilities. So immediately I'm looking it up, trying to figure out, okay, what is this? Well, they had one in Baltimore and they had one in DC. And I said, I don't think I want to live in DC. Maybe I could look at Baltimore. And I made arrangements to go out and take a tour of the school. And I got there and I was blown away. Oh my God, can I just put her back in primary school here? And, it was just so hands-on and so just everything about it. And I was like, God, this might be something. They said,
Good.
well, we have summer school if you want to try. I said, okay, let me get back to you. I flew home and I sat down with her dad and her, and I said, listen, I went and saw this school. It was really neat and everything you might like. And I think it'd be good. I said, but you can do a summer school thing there. You want to do summer school and see if you like it. And she was like, okay, and absolutely loved it. And I said, do you want to go here for high school? And she said, yeah. I said,
Mm.
okay. Her dad and we spoke about it. And I said, I'll live there for 4 years. She'll do high school. We'll come home during the summer. We'll come home for holidays, whatever. We can do this. Absolutely. So found an apartment in the city in a high rise, really secure, but it was in the city and it was loud. And I'm a country girl. I came from grapes. I mean,
Yeah.
I came from a farm and I'm like, what the heck is this?
Wow.
But she did her first year and it was so good. Oh my God, it was so good.
Good.
She did her second year. She was a sophomore and it started getting a little bit tough. Only not work wise, but because you had other kids in there with different issues,
Mhm.
Tourette's and ADD and just where they just have no filter.
Yeah.
So then we had the boy problem where the
Mhm.
boys were, you
Mhm.
know, touchy feeling, got her in a bathroom,
Mhm.
possibly tried to have sex, she read that. So
Mm.
it was just emotionally like, oh my God, I can't, mom. And I'm like, no, we can't do this anymore.
Ah.
So she says, I want to go back to Christian education. I said, okay, let me start looking. So I started looking. Meanwhile, I had decided that I was going to divorce her dad because he wasn't married anymore. So
Mhm.
let's just say that.
Okay.
Said, oh yeah, I'm not doing this. So I checked out. We bought a house. I bought a house in the woods and found a Christian school in York, PA, and went and talked to them. And they were wonderful. They pulled her. She had two teachers that she worked with constantly. And they pulled her for the majority of classes, but she was still mainstream.
Mhm.
And they really worked with her, and it was just a godsend. Now, was it expensive? Yes. Does everybody have the means? No. I know that if we didn't have the means, though, that there were scholarships and things that they would put into place so we could do things like that. So I say never close the door on possible private schooling and so forth, um, because there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way, right?
I like
So
that. There's a way, and I can't imagine how difficult that time in your life must have been. It sounds like it was
it
just
was
all over
horrible.
the place.
The first year that I was in Baltimore, I literally got up, took my daughter to school, which she was only like maybe 10 blocks away, drove her to school, came back, crawled into bed, and then crawled out of bed when I had to go pick her up. I did that for a year
Yeah.
because with everything going on, I knew that my marriage was gone. I knew that I was in this place where there was no family. I knew that it was really, really, really tough on me. That was a really tough year. But as soon as I got out of the city and I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to do this. Didn't come this
Mhm.
far. So we decided that we liked it out here in the woods. My daughter thinks of this as her home. She never thinks of California being her home, which I was born and raised in California. I mean, at the end of the day, I come from a farming background.
What did you farm?
Grapes. We
Great.
farmed grapes. We table grapes. We had raisins. We made raisins. We had wine grapes. We had all that. I mean, I worked out there. I turned trays. I wrapped vines. I worked out in the field because my dad was a farmer and he had farms, but he also had a boat manufacturing business. So that was
Wow.
his primary, and the farm was always what he grew up doing and what he continued to do. So, it was just a complete opposite of what I knew, being here out in the woods and not having,
Mhm. Mhm.
any family or anything. I have a great family though. We still go back very often. I have family that comes and visits us. It's been an adjustment, but it's
Mhm.
wonderful now. Now my son's
Yeah.
here. What more can I want?
Yeah. Was
So
he there in Baltimore with you as well? Or was he when she was in school?
he had graduated the summer that I took her to summer school. He graduated high school. So
Okay.
he took a year off with his dad and pretty much did whatever he wanted.
Okay.
He was like not parented at all.
Okay.
So, but he was a good kid, thank
Yeah.
God. And then he came out here after a year. He came out here and lived with me for about a year or so. And then he got into youth pastoring and moved in with the youth pastor, and he was doing an internship with him.
Okay.
um, because I was telling him when we moved out and he came out, I said, you got to take her, you got to go to youth group with Tanner. You have to. I know you're not high school anymore, but she needs you there. I was always pushing him like, you need to
Mhm.
be there, back her up.
Mhm.
She feels
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And so it ended up getting him into youth pastoring. So he did that. And then he went out to California. He did that for 6 years. He was a youth pastor. And then what brought him back here is he decided that he was going to step away because he was so burnt out. They had him doing everything,
Mm.
and he decided to go after his dream, which is cycling.
Oh,
He's
wow.
always cycled since junior high, so he was going to try to go pro, and he got picked up by a pro team last year. So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's his journey right now. We were able to go watch him in Italy and Denmark.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's really
Wow.
fun. It's funny though with the dynamics of Tanner and him. She gets very like they just had the first US major tour here in Baltimore. Teams from all over the world came, and it's the first one. Anyway, he was in that, and it was televised and everything, and they have him come up on stage and introduce them, and then whenever we're anywhere or we're in back in the pits or whatever with him and his bike, or people will come up and want his autograph or a picture or blah blah blah. She gets so jealous. I'm like, why are you
Oh.
jealous? And she's like, everybody knows, everybody wants a picture, everybody. And I said, oh my God, Tanner, do you know how lucky that he's your brother? He's your brother. You get to hang with him all the time. You shouldn't be jealous.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
That is
And this,
adorable.
yeah, and this year she's like, why can't I go watch him this year? Because I went last year, his wife and I. And I said, honey, we're not going to go this year. We're not going this year. And she's like, well, I want to go. And I'm like, no, 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 because you'll be jealous.
Yeah. I'm glad they have such a wonderful relationship.
They do. They
That's
do. And she doesn't
awesome.
like it when he's gone a long time either now.
Oh,
She
that's
doesn't like it.
sweet. That's
I
amazing.
know.
You are such a strong person in my eyes. What keeps you going? What are your hopes and dreams?
The hopes and dreams are that eventually Tanner just sees that it's okay to be who she is. That is my biggest dream, because she's so insecure. I don't know why. I don't know why she is, but she's so insecure. And I think it's just part of their make. And I just want her to be secure with who she is and what she's doing and how important she is and how important she is in her daily life and the things she does. And
Hmm.
yesterday I was even saying to her, she had taken these big bottle jugs back over to the neighbors that she was, using while she didn't have water. And then she was, getting firewood and she made a fire and she's doing all these things. And I looked over at her and I said, Tana, I really appreciate you. And she said, you do? I said, yeah, I really appreciate you. I said, you do a lot and I appreciate you. And I said, when we were gone, you thought you were falling apart and your anxiety, but you did really, really good. You did really good. I mean, you smoked it. You seriously smoked it. She goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, Tanner, you know how hard it is to live without water? She goes, yeah, I've been doing it, Mom. And I said, I know. I said, but you won't take advantage of it now, will you? Because as soon as the water came on, you would have thought there were fireworks. She was so excited. Oh my God, we have
Oh.
water. Oh my God, we have water. I said, so you won't take advantage of that. You'll never take that for granted. She goes, no, it's important to have water. I said, it
Mhm.
is. I said,
Mhm.
but you can do it. I mean, I had to tell her to boil some water and wash some dishes, but I just navigate her through things. So
Yeah.
my hope is that eventually everything will stick because things don't stick in their minds. It takes so much repetition to get there. And that's my hope, that things will just click one day and it won't be so hard for her to catch it,
Mhm.
like
Mhm. You're
I
such an
keep saying,
amazing mom. You're so sweet and just such a good mom to just be able to pause in that moment and look at your daughter and tell her that that not every mom does that. So you should know how special you are as a mom.
yeah, I'll be honest, I'm a little hard too, though, Becky. I really am. I'm
You
hard on
have
her.
to be.
Sometimes, Chaz or whoever will say, you were just really negative right then. And I'll be like, I was. Yeah, I was, and sometimes I don't like who I am with her because sometimes I think that I'm harder on her than I should be. But I want her to realize that I'd rather me be hard on her or say something hateful or mean towards her, as we all will, than
Mhm.
to have a stranger do it.
Mhm.
Because I know at the end of the day, she knows that I'm her mom and I love her and I know she knows I'm doing it for the good, but she'll call me on it too. She'll call me on it. She'll say,
Yeah.
Mom, you're really being mean, you
Yeah.
know?
Doing it for the good. I like that.
I'm doing it for the
Doing it for
good.
the
I
good.
really am. But by no stretch, I don't have it all figured out. I wish I did.
Mm.
I'm glad that there is this retreat that that happens, and all the moms that can possibly make it to that it's life changing.
It is. Was that when was the first time you ever met another parent or individual with 22q?
A gal that went to the lab school, she had it, and she was a year ahead of Tanner.
What was that
And
moment like for you?
it was really eye opening. It was eye opening. I try to always teach them that we're all alike. We're all
Mhm.
alike. We're all made in Jesus's eyes, and my thought process anyway. And and there are reasons why everybody looks the way they are or does the things they do. There's reasons, and we don't know what the reason is, but we just have to trust.
Right.
And it's like I tell her all the time, I don't know why God put you in my life with all these issues and having all these things, but he did, and he knew I could handle it. So I just had to step up to the plate and swing. I had to
Mhm.
step up and bat, and
Yeah.
here you are. And I
Here you
said, and
are.
every day you get better. So,
Exactly. I mean, there's so many, right? And
oh yeah.
for any new parent that's listening, what advice would you give them?
Oh gosh, probably just to be open to whatever's going to come your way and know that, and I'm a true believer, you are never going to have more than you can handle. You are never you were put on this earth to raise these kids and do the best you can do. And that's all that's asked of you. And if your best is different than someone else's best, that's okay. That's
Mhm.
okay. So
Right.
everybody's journey is their own, and you just have to embrace it. You just have to embrace who who your child is and who your foundation is. And oh God, please share with anybody, listen to anybody, take it all in, because there's so many things that, with the 22Q umbrella, there are so many things that these kids can have and not have and deal with. And every journey is different. I've yet to find another child that had a Hemitruncus to the left. Yet to find
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because at the end of the day, we all have the same journey, right?
Mhm.
It all requires the same emotions to go through these things. And I think that's what's really important, is just to really lean on people that have some, experience, or maybe give um some pointers or some cues to people that don't have the experience and don't
Mhm.
know where to turn, you know.
Yeah.
Just always
Mhm.
be open to it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Always
sure.
be open to it.
Always be open to it, whatever it is.
And I've been dying to ask you this question.
Yes.
This is a whole interview, but if you
Yeah.
could go back in time to when that geneticist told you that your daughter has DiGeorge syndrome, what would you go back in time and tell yourself or do?
I think I would I think I would go back in time. I would probably say to myself at that point in time, because let me tell you, it was a lot. Um, I think I would go back and tell myself that when I'm sitting here now in my 50s, it's all going to be okay. And it's going to be a ride, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be sad, but it's going to be okay. And don't change any of it. I think that's what I would tell myself at that state. My 30-year-old. That's what I was, 30, my 30-year-old self. Get on, hop on, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the
I love
ride.
it. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah,
Here we go.
here we go.
You got it, girl. Here we go.
It's like Disneyland. Here we
Little different than Disneyland, but I got you.
go. Just a little.
And then last but not least, I have to ask, what has your 22 girl taught you? How
Oh
about
God.
you?
She has taught me, even though I say I'm not patient, she's taught me patience. She's taught me patience. She's taught me resilience. She's taught me, when they kick you, don't stay down. Don't stay down. Get back up, because there's nowhere to go but up.
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
get back
Yeah.
up and do it again. So,
How
and that's kind of what she does all the time.
how proud are you of her?
So proud. I'm so She's a good kid. I wasn't gonna cry. You stop that. No, she's my world. And she's first, and that's hard. That's hard on marriages. That's hard on relationships. But she's first. And she always will be, because she needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everybody's okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, she's pretty special. And I just hope one day that everybody will get to meet her. And it's so funny, because she said to me the last time we went to the retreat, Mom, is there ever going to be a time where I can go to the retreat? And I said, no.
Not the mom retreats.
I said, the mom retreats are for moms. And she
Yeah.
goes, ah. I said, no, honey, but it's so good when I come back. Don't you think don't you think I'm in a better place when I come back? And she goes, yeah, you're always happy when you come back. I said, I know. I said, and I
Mhm.
didn't even realize I was a rock star last time. I said, this time I went, I was like, oh my God, I have fans.
You truly do. We need to make t-shirts. You and Judy.
And Judy, it's so funny. It's
But
just,
we all flock to you because you both are just so happy and joyful and a pleasure to be around. You make us laugh nonstop, but when it gets serious, you're always there to give us a hug. You're always there to give us advice. And in the 22 community, I've yet to meet a mom like yourself. And it's just so refreshing to hear a mom who's been through it for the
yeah,
past 20 years to say, it's going to be okay.
yeah.
It's going to be okay. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I think I told you the first year that I went to the retreat, when I got home, I kind of had post-traumatic stress. I mean, I struggled. I really struggled, although I loved it. And I loved meeting all, but all these questions come at you and you have to bring up all this stuff. And, it was a lot. But, this time I was just like, I'm just going to, I was like, I don't know. Do I want to go put myself through that? But I did. I did. I wanted to, but, you just don't want that feeling afterwards. And I didn't have that this time. I really made a decision that I was just going to sit back and I was just going to let people come to me. Like,
Mhm.
whatever. Whatever is, I'm here.
Mhm.
Let's just roll with this,
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so glad that Judy and I made space off campus so that there are moms that could do that whole thing, because it's different. It really is. Immerse yourself into it all. And
Right.
it was really good for Judy and I bonding also. And I hope that, and I'm sure there are other moms that have bonded over these retreats and they become these friends, and they find it's their own little tribe within. And I think that's what Judy and I have done too, that it's
Mhm.
our own little tribe within. It's a great thing, and I'm so glad it's there for everyone now.
Yeah. It
I'm
really
so
is just
happy.
so
Yeah.
nice to be in a room with people who get it and not have to
Yes,
explain it. Yeah, you
exactly.
can't explain it until you're
Yeah,
there, but
it's not, why are you crying? It's just
uh,
like,
no,
it's
it's
okay,
just
cry all you want. You know what I mean?
God knows I was crying on your shoulder multiple times. Um,
But,
it's just, yeah, it brings out a lot of stuff. It makes you face a lot of things that you haven't faced or talked about. And yeah, so I know I, after this last one, had a hard time after, but it made me do a little bit of self-evaluation on why was this so much more upsetting? And I think it was that just talking about it nonstop and really thinking about it, all
well,
the stuff, all the post-traumatic stress, all the trauma.
yes, it's a real thing. It's a
Hmm.
real thing, and that's what people have to understand is it's a real thing, and I don't think they teach you that, you know? They don't teach you
Hmm.
that part. I can remember, God love you, when we were karaokeing and you put that song on. It's one of my favorites. I said, "Oh, my Becky, my
Yep.
Becky." Yeah, and,
Pink, I am here.
yes. Oh,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
anyway, but then I went up and I sat with, I call her Seattle, that would be Ashley. And then she was crying and I said, "Oh, hon," and she said, "This song just really hit it for me." But just the song, because it is such a powerful song.
Such a
And
powerful song.
yeah, yeah, I love that
Hmm.
song.
I
I'm
love
glad.
that song too.
I
It
know.
now it makes me think of all y'all every time I listen to it. I'm just like, I am here. I am here. I've already seen the bottom, so there's nothing to
Yep,
fear. I am
that's
here.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, it says it all. It says it
Yeah.
all.
Hmm.
So, but
Well, Miss Tyler, I could talk to you forever, but I should probably wrap it up.
yeah, I know. We can't
But
have all my podcast, can we?
no, just the Tyler podcast opening now. No, but seriously, thank you for being on. You are such a delight, and I just wish you guys nothing but the best. And thank you again for being on and just sharing your wisdom with us today. I love you.
Thank you. I love you. You're one of my favorite humans.
Tyler, thank you so much for being on the episode today and sharing all of your wisdom. I'm so thankful that our paths have crossed, and You're the best. Thank you. And to all of our listeners, if you'd like to contact me with any questions or possibly being on this podcast, you can reach me at 22qpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to subscribe and share this podcast. And never forget, 22Q family, that you are not alone.